I find that there have been repeated misrepresentations made to the court by defense counsel. Excuse me, this is funny, Ms. Reed? As you can imagine, this case is expected to take a while.
Pressure mounting in Dedham, Massachusetts as the retrial for Karen Reed just a few jurors away this morning. New challenges facing Judge Cannone and the impact of the O'Keeffes keeping John's memory alive as the family continues to make their presence felt. Plus, a deadly stabbing at a high school track meet. A teenager dies in the arms of his twin brother. We'll hear from the victim's family. Also, remembering Charles Vallow as his ex-wife Lori prepares to defend herself. It's all next right here on Opening Statements. Good morning and welcome to Opening Statements. I'm Ted Rollins in for Julie Grant on this Friday, and what a Friday it is. Busy Friday. We've got Karen Reed, little Lori Vallow, Daybell happening. That case going next week. We're going to preview that, talk a lot about Karen Reed as they inch through this jury selection process. They're getting closer than a lot of people thought they would. They're already ticking off jurors. A lot of people thought, me included, how are you going to pick a jury in that town with all the Karen Reed talk, pickle chips, that, and everything else? They're doing it. But first, before we get to all of that, let's take a look, as we always do every morning, at the Daily Docket.
You ever love something so much that you kill it? Like, it happens to me. That's the feeling that I have. I love something so much that I kill it. Like, I love it so much, and then I kill it. That's what happens to me.
Remember convicted killer Taylor Schabusiness? She's back in court this morning for a hearing on charges that she attacked a prison guard. That is up in Wisconsin. We'll have that at 9:30 Eastern. In California, closing arguments continue in the celebrity stylist murder case for Monica Cementelli. That begins at noon Eastern. And in Michigan, testimony resumes in the battered and burned trial for Linda Sturmer. Court starting up there 9 o'clock Eastern time, but we're going to begin the hour in Dedham, Massachusetts, where jury selection resumes this morning in the Karen Reed retrial. And a new lawsuit has been filed by Reed supporters over the buffer zone. All right, let's talk jury selection first. 10 of the 16 jurors have been found somewhere, somehow. 10 jurors selected, 5 men, 5 women. They're looking for 16. The selection process was expected to take up to 3 weeks, plus that according to Judge Cannone. It's humming along a lot faster than many people expected. We know the retrial is going to look a little different this time around. Judge Cannone has expanded the buffer zone. The free Karen Reeders are going to have to push back a few blocks. She says it's so that they cannot influence from the outside what is going on inside that courthouse. Reed supporters not happy about it. They filed a lawsuit over the buffer zone, saying it unlawfully keeps them too far from the clubhouse. Judge Cannone making a lot of rulings as we head into this retrial. What's she all about? She's got an interesting past, and a lot of people are just absolutely glued to her. Some love her, some hate her. That happens in every big trial. Let's take a deep dive into Judge Cannone, and for that, we'll turn to Court TV Judge Ashley Wilcott.
We have been unable to reach a unanimous verdict.
After declaring a mistrial in Karen Reed's first murder trial last year, Judge Beverly Cannone is presiding over Reed's retrial.
This is funny, Ms. Reed?
Cannone, a Boston South Shore native, was appointed a district court judge in 2009 and a superior court judge in 2014.
She comes to this from a defense perspective. She used to be a public defender, and in fact, her father was a public defender.
Judge Cannone has had a remarkable reputation as a criminal defense attorney, essentially a superstar criminal defense attorney.
A 25-year career, in fact, defending clients like Reed, accused of murder and other violent crimes. In 2002, Cannone was named Justice Defender of the Year.
I believe she really does stay above the fray and is not going to be swayed either way, and is going to make her decision based on the best interest of judgment.
She gets a lot of criticism in both directions. And quite frankly, if both the prosecution and the defense are criticizing you, you're probably playing it down the middle. But thus far, even at the appellate level, her rulings have been held up.
Still, Reed's defense team asked Judge Cannone to step down before the first trial over a social media post alleging the judge knew some of the state's witnesses.
I want to make it very clear that I reject the notion that untrue and unsubstantiated rumors spread on the internet can force a judge to recuse herself. I know full well the importance of a fair and impartial judge. And I know full well how to follow my oath and comply with my ethical obligations. All 4 points raised in the defendant's motion are without merit. Your motion is denied.
As protesters rally in support of Karen Reed's innocence outside of court, Judge Cannone is focused on what's happening inside the courtroom.
She does keep a good, responsible hand in things to make sure that things are moving along, that there aren't unnecessary delays. In a case like this with such complexity, it really could go on and on and on.
Ultimately, the people who matter in this case are the people who sit in the jury box. What she needs to do is ensure that they are not tainted by the spectacle. Ultimately, you're talking about a case that's going to be tried in a relatively small courtroom to a relatively small number of people, and it's going to have, a million eyes on it.
All right, so is this trial going to look any different? In the hands of Judge Cannone, let's talk about it. Here to discuss, retired FBI Special Agent Jennifer Coffendorfer and criminal defense attorney David Bruno. Let's begin with this buffer zone. Jennifer, what's your take on the argument from the judge that the Free Karen readers specifically, but I guess both sides have protesters out there, they're too much of an influence? Jurors are listening and hearing it on a daily basis. She wants to push them back, right or wrong?
It's right. Good morning. The reason is they are so loud and so boisterous, and we know from the previous trial that they were able to hear these protesters. They were able to hear Free Karen Reed and all the other rhetoric that was being yelled. And moreover, this is not the first time this has been challenged in this particular case. This is round 2 of all of this, and the last time her ruling was withheld.
David, what's your take on the jury selection process? It's moving along a lot faster than people thought it would. And even Judge Cannone said, let's reserve 3 weeks, because she thought it was going to be more arduous than it has turned out to be in week 1. Who's the best juror for both sides?
Oh, open-minded. I mean, especially the defense. They need to continue to find the people that really are just going to be open-minded, and because they have some good arguments. I mean, the third-party culprit, let's see if they're able to establish the foundation, because one of the court's decisions was that they cannot open to Brian Albert or Brian Higgins. They can't even get into Colin, and they're going to need to establish the foundation. This is going to look different, though, because one of the experts, the new expert's really going to be good for the Commonwealth, and that is bringing in the engineer, the biomechanical engineer. They did not have the engineer the first time on the accident reconstruction scene. They only called the trooper, and he was very green. He didn't have much experience, and it came through with his testimony. So the prosecutor, Brennan, has brought in this hired gun, really, as an engineer to really explain the crash and how those injuries could have been caused. And that was one of the biggest points of contention that I think resulted in the hung jury.
Yeah, Trooper Paul dropped the ball, that's for sure, in Karen Reed 1. Her team also has picked up some ammunition in terms of the defense table, including that juror who is now, she was an alternate juror. Now she's part of the Karen Reed team. Let's listen to Karen eating her pickle chips, courtesy of Inside Edition, and then we'll talk about that.
I'm here. We're fighting. We'll keep fighting. I feel strong, so I feel good.
How do you feel about the former juror who's actually on your team now?
I'm sorry that I have these pickle chips in my mouth, but I feel just another resource. How did this land? How did even jury selection go for the jurors, the prospective jurors? So just another resource that we're utilizing.
Yeah. What does it mean to you to have her a part of your team?
I just feel lucky. I'm not paying any of these people. They're not asking for anything. They're spending time away from their children.
Jennifer, how different is this trial going to be than the first trial in terms of strategy? Do you think the defense is going to go all in on this? He was beaten and eaten by the dog and bit by the dog inside the house, or will they back off and maybe provide that as an alternative, but maybe bring in some other ones as well?
Well, I think the biggest difference that this trial will bring is Brennan. He is going to have a whole different order of proof. He is going to lay out the Commonwealth's case instead of focusing on the defense's case, which is kind of what happened last time. They so were worried about the defense case that they forgot to really present their case until later in their order of proof. So that's going to change. As far as the defense, I think we are going to see many more objections regarding the third-party culprit, and I think there's going to be a tighter lid on them trying to present that when there's no proof.
Yeah, Brennan, huge upgrade on the Commonwealth side of things. The defense is appealing to the U.S. Supreme Court, David, this double jeopardy argument that they have, that the first jury did come to a conclusion. We'll see how that plays out. But what is your take on Karen Reed 2? If the jury in one couldn't come to a verdict, why, with the same set of facts and circumstances, should anybody believe that another set of jurors will come to a unanimous decision?
And new prosecutor number one. And I think that they really have the advantage on the second time around, because this defense came up with various different arguments and cross-examination tactics that surprised the prosecutor first round, and it wasn't an acquittal. There were people in that room that were voting guilty too. So I think that Brennan coming in is gonna really help the prosecutor. And then again, I think that biomechanical engineer is gonna be the difference maker for the prosecutor. That accident reconstruction specialist was not competent enough to testify on the most critical issue of cause. And I think that Brennan did the right thing by bringing in that engineer.
Jennifer, why a different outcome this time around?
Well, I'm concerned about the outcome from the standpoint of everybody wants to see just a fair trial. These jurors not previously tainted. We don't want to see any jury nullification issue. And I still remain concerned about that. But this is going to be a much stronger case for the CW. They've added multiple expert witnesses that I think are going to prove to kind of put the little hole in or the pin in those holes that were in the previous case presented.
All right. Well, I mean, you still have Trooper Proctor. You still have the injuries to John O'Keefe. Personally, I think you're going to have the same result. You can do it 100 times.
On the Proctor case, on the issue, now they have to come before the jury and explain that they've been terminated as well, and they've been sanctioned, and there's been consequences. That's one check in the defense column as well.
All right, good point. Let's get a break. Jennifer, thank you. Enjoy your weekend. David's going to stick around. Coming up on Opening Statements.
I tried to support her as much as I could, but it's gotten really, really bad. Lately, she's had a break. She says, I'm Nick Snyder. I've taken over Charles's body, and Charles has been killed. I'm going to kill you. You're going to be murdered today or tomorrow.
Coming up, remembering Charles Vallow ahead of cult mom Lori Daybell's opening statements next Monday. That trial, ready to go. Plus, a fatal stabbing at a high school track meet. The story getting national attention. We're going to hear from the victim's family this morning. Stay with us.
Lori Daybell.
Already convicted for the murders of her children.
Doomsday cult mom is now lawyer Lori.
She's representing herself.
On charges of conspiring to murder her fourth husband.
She said, I can murder you now.
She really thinks she's equipped to try this case.
She appears very sure of herself.
I have real trial experience.
It's going to be a strange trial. We'll see how it plays out.
The Cult Mom Conspiracy Trial. Live coverage begins Monday morning, only on Court TV.
All right, many of us saw that viral track beat moment. Now there's another one with much more dire circumstances. The family of a boy who was stabbed to death at a Texas track meet is speaking out against what they're calling a senseless incident. Boy, is it ever. 17-year-old Carmelo Anthony, spelled with a K, was charged with first-degree murder. Police say he stabbed Austin Metcalf after an altercation during a high school track meet just north of Dallas. The twin brother of 17-year-old the victim here tried to save his brother, but the Metcalf say Austin died in his twin brother's arms at the track meet. The surviving brother and mother spoke to ABC.
I tried to whip around as fast as I could, but I didn't see the stab. But then I look at my brother, and then I'm not going to talk about the rest. So just that's just what I saw, and I tried to help him.
He was the most amazing kid. Oh, so smart. He had college football guys looking at him to play in college. Just because the kid was mad, my son is not here anymore, and I don't understand it.
Yeah, we're asking, well, what can be learned from this? Nothing. It's an unprecedented stabbing, according to the school district. It's a just difficult case all the way around. Let's bring in our guests. Criminal defense attorney, former prosecutor David Bruno, still with us. Joe Tamburrado is with us, and retired NYPD detective Mike Alcazar also joining the conversation. Joe, this is one of those just head shakers. There's really nothing you can say. There seems to be ample evidence against this young man, and of course these are allegations now. But your overall thoughts about this disturbing case?
Good morning, Ted. Thank you for having me on. Yes, it's extremely tragic. And I think some of the initial statements by the victim's family ring true. I mean, this person, Carmelo, why was he bringing a knife to a football game? Why are you bringing a knife to sit in the bleachers, to watch a football game, enjoy yourself? I mean, what was going on with this person? And I think it's another example of people just resorting to violence first, rather than trying to discuss differences. But I think the victims' families, they're asking the right question, which is, what is going on with this individual who's accused of murdering the young man?
Mike, you've seen a lot in your days with NYPD. Are things getting worse, or are we just hearing about these types of crimes more often and through social media, et cetera?
I mean, I hope it's not getting worse. I've seen lots of cases like this. I have a similar case that investigated happened where two young men collided and one had a knife. So the problem is that when people bring weapons to like an event like this, or just carry a weapon, there's no cooling off period. So yeah, words are not enough, and it's a crime of passion. And unfortunately, this young man died because of this. And you know, it reminds me of my grandson, who also plays football, around the same age. And I always tell him, be careful who you're having an argument with or you're having a fight with. You never know what they're carrying, unfortunately. So I really feel for the family. It's very close to home when something like this happens.
Yeah, I mean, this was a track meet. He was a football player as well at a 4.0. David, on the other side of things, the defendant to be here, he's a young man, had that weapon, but also probably had a mind that couldn't deal with whatever was happening there, the beef, I guess, that he had. As a defense attorney, how would you approach defending this young man?
Well, first question in the legal system is going to be, is he going to be treated as a juvenile or an adult? The accused is 17 years old, so that starts in juvenile court, and prosecutors are going to have to evaluate whether or not to treat him as an adult. So as a defense attorney, you want to come in and provide a background, mitigation. Maybe he's got treatment records, mental health issues. What's the family situation? Has the Child Protection Services been involved in this family's life? There are a number of things that could be done to look at background to try to keep it in the juvenile system versus the adult system. And I'm a Joe. Why in the world is a student having a knife at a track meet? I mean, this was 10 o'clock in the morning at a track meet where there was an altercation. And certainly if he has a weapon at a place he's not supposed to, he's not going to be able to use self-defense as the aggressor either. So those are some initial legal issues that I've identified.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very difficult one because both of them, one is dead, as you heard from the mom. I mean, sounded like a wonderful kid, and then the other 17-year-old is likely going to be spending most of his days in prison if indeed he's found guilty. In other trending news, a Walgreens worker is gunned down in California by a suspect who told investigators he had issues with Big Pharma. Police say 30-year-old Narciso Fernandez walked into a local Walgreens, shot a security camera, then shot and killed Eric Velasquez on Monday. The victim, not a pharmacist, working at the Walgreens. According to police, the pharmacy section was actually closed at that time. Velasquez died in the store while others were sheltering in place. Fernandez set to appear in court later today, bond set at $3 million. Police don't believe he was inspired by the killing of healthcare CEO Brian Thompson and Luigi Mangione. We're asking, I don't think this is going to happen. A public going to rally behind this guy, his grudge against Big Pharma. Joe, this seems to be different, than Mangione. I mean, we all go to Walgreens, and it's much more than a pharmacy. But he did have this apparent grudge against pharmacies. Any traction there, do you think?
Zero traction. I mean, no, people aren't going to rally around this guy because it's not, it's, even though I disagree with the way people are rallying around Mangione, they're doing it because it seems that they're trying to make a political statement that Mangione was going against the main man, one of the richest men involved in providing healthcare, huge healthcare company. And obviously this poor pharmacist, he had nothing to do with the Walgreens Corporation or Big Pharma. He's just working there. So no, I don't think the public will rally around him. But I also think, I know they're saying it's not tied to Mangione, not inspired by him. But I got to say, all these people who are rallying around Mangione as some type of hero is ridiculous. And I think this is the kind of thing you're going to see in society where when you get these kind of people who just say Mangione is a hero or was making a good statement, I completely disagree with it.
Yeah. Oh, and Mike, what is the danger with this Mangione effect, if you will? Again, I don't think this guy is anywhere near that, but he may have. I know investigators say that there's no connection, but if you're sitting at home in your underwear and your life's not going very well, this is kind of a call to arms to go out in a blaze of glory. How concerning is it to law enforcement when you have a Mangione scenario?
Yeah, it is possible. This loser could have watched the Mangione case and said, you know what, I like that attention. And you saw he knew that the camera was there. He wanted to be in the camera. He shot the camera. So he could be just a psychopath attention seeker. So the danger is there that there could be potential copycats to get the attention that Luigi's getting. And this guy is probably hoping the same. I mean, he's Bizarro Luigi. He's not going to get it, like Joe said. And hopefully it doesn't spawn any more copycats.
Yeah, it's disgusting on every level. Mike Alcazar, thank you. Enjoy your weekend. Still to come, opening statements. Cult mom Lori Daybell's trial. It's all set. They have a jury. Didn't take them long at all. We'll talk about that, and we're going to remember the victim in this one, Charles Vallow. Plus, jury selection resumes, and Karen Reed. We'll talk more about Karen Reed and the impact of John O'Keefe's family.
Something happened to your brother. They found him in the snow, and they took him to the hospital. Karen Reed was there. She was being restrained by hospital employees, and she was, screaming out to us, asking if he was alive.
As we always do, this morning we're giving a voice to victims. Lori Vallow Daybell, preparing to go to trial for conspiracy to murder her then husband, Charles Vallow. Opening statements take place Monday morning, and Court TV will be there. We'll be watching. Daybell faces a mostly male jury, 13 men and 3 women. She's representing herself. It appears that's exactly what Lori wanted. Get as many bids, raining men for Lori. She thinks she could use her abilities to attract men like she did with Chad and others to maybe get out of this. We'll see. Charles Vallow was her 4th husband. They were married in 2006. In early 2019, he was more than worried about his wife. Talked to police about it.
I tried to support her as much as I could, but it's gotten really, really bad lately. She's had a break. She says, I'm Nick Snyder. I've taken over Charles's body, and Charles has been killed. I'm going to kill you. You're going to be murdered today or tomorrow. I can do it. I'm not going to with my priesthood, with my power. She does priesthood blessing. She does.
So who's Nick Snyder? Okay.
That's who I'm supposed to be.
Charles filed for divorce in February of 2019. In that filing, he said that Lori had threatened to kill him, and just a few months later, he was dead. He was shot and killed by Lori's brother, Alex Cox. Cox told police this was self-defense. He was never arrested, and he, of course, later died as well. Now, the family of Charles Vallow is looking for justice. Here to discuss, criminal defense attorney and former prosecutors Joe Tamburino and David Bruno. David, this case, it's a long time coming for the Woodcocks. Kay and Larry Woodcock were the first to sound the alarm that the kids were missing, and now it's their turn with Charles Vallow, but it's a different case. It's a more difficult case. If Lori Vallow had a real attorney, do you think she would have an actual chance here?
Well, look, I mean, there's text messages between Chad and Lori that are inculpatory about believing that Charles was possessed. That's really the argument from prosecutors, that this is a conspiracy, and it fits right into the prior cases as well. We're going to hear about this too, because Charles was going to pick up JJ that day, and Tylee was at the house as well. And all of them are dead except for Lori. Lori's the only one in that house that survives, believe it or not. We're going to be hearing about the kids in this one too. So, Lori's behavior thereafter, after the shooting, instead of calling 911, she takes his rental car and goes and runs errands and gets groceries. So there are arguments here involving those text messages and her conduct, her being there, that are going to be strong for the prosecutor. So I do believe she will go down on this one as well.
Joe, what do you make of Lori acting as her own attorney and then during jury selection picks 13 men, 13 out of 16?
I think it goes back to what I think one of the prosecutors said to the press, narcissism. I think what she thinks is she's pretty and attractive and could snow men over. Men are not going to be able to get past her beauty and charm and everything. She's going to pull over on them. I don't think it's going to work. I mean, defending yourself is never a good idea. She has obviously some experience in the courtroom because she's been in court and gone through trials. She's had a lot of experience as a defendant. But to represent yourself is always a losing proposition. So I agree with David. I think she's going to be found guilty in this case. I think the evidence is very strong. And I think the reason why she picked mostly men is because she thinks she's going to somehow, wow them.
Yeah, I mean, she's tied to a podium here, and at the defense table, it's not like she can walk down the rail and look at them in the eyes. Because of security reasons, she's going to have to be on that side of the courtroom. But I absolutely think that's what she's thinking, that her special powers will help her. That ain't going to happen. Let's listen to Charles talk about the fact that he was very worried about Lori and her mental health before he ended up dead.
What's going on? Why is she here and you're not here, or are you staying here with her?
Long story. She's had kind of a break from reality. She thinks you're LDS?
Yes.
She thinks she's married to Moroni in the past. This is her
You think she's what?
Was married to Moroni, the top of the temple.
Joe, her mental health was an issue the first time around in Idaho. She at one point was declared unfit. Now she is fit. The meds or whatever has been set. She's representing herself. Is Crazy Lori going to appear in likely, maybe even as soon as day one opening statements?
Yes. Because I think what this gets to is the difference between having an actual mental illness that would prevent you or impede you from knowing what you did wrong, realizing the nature of the acts, and simply having a personality disorder. You know, there are tons of people in society who have mental health problems, and they get help, and they're on medication, and they take therapy, and they get better. But sometimes you run into people who simply have a personality disorder, which no medication is going to help. And narcissism is one of those types of personality disorders. So I think that is going to be front and center in this case. We're all human beings, as the jury is. And so I think when they're going to see her as she acts as her own attorney and questions witnesses, gives opening statements, gives closing arguments, sure, that aspect of her personality or the disorder in her personality is going to come through.
All right, we'll leave it there. Again, opening statement set for Monday morning out in Arizona, and we will be there. Our Court TV cameras will be there, and we'll watch it unfold. We'll see what happens. David, Joe, thank you. Enjoy your weekends. Joe's actually going to be back next hour with us here on Court TV Live. As we go to break, let's remember the victim in all of this. This is Charles Vallow. He's a talented athlete, once played semi-professional baseball. Years later, he made a name for himself as a financial consultant. And our thoughts and prayers are always with the victims, including the victims' family, the family of Charles Vallow. They will be there, wanting justice for him, starting next week. Now, for what's tipping the scales as we inch closer to opening statements in the Karen Reed retrial, it's important to remember John O'Keefe. Court TV crime and justice correspondent Matt Johnson has a look at the victim in this case.
So then we take marshmallow, right? And we find stick.
John O'Keefe III was born December 8th, 1975 in Braintree, Massachusetts.
Yeah, we all called him Johnny, especially if you're a family.
What did Johnny do for work?
Boston police.
O'Keefe, known to friends and family as Johnny, JJ, or the Godfather, was a 16-year veteran of the Boston Police Department.
So after my sister had passed away in 2013, her husband passed away 2 months after that. My brother he took on responsibility of raising our niece and nephew.
The kids were just 3 and 6 at the time.
We had kind of assumed because Johnny was out on, the streets doing his job like that Paul and I would take the kids, and Johnny said he was going to do it.
John even moved to a different job at work, one that carried less risk for the now single parent.
He was our friend. He was really good to me and my kids.
We were close. We did a lot of stuff together.
I met John in May of 2013. I met him at a bar in South Boston he was with Pat Rogers at the time. Post meeting John, I started dating Pat, and my son's father is Pat Rogers.
Pat was John's partner, who took his own life before the baby was born.
He was somebody who was there for my sister during her darkest times, so I really respected him for that. But yeah, he was a big brother and a family friend.
John never really left my side, as a support system.
In the spring of 2020, the start of the COVID pandemic, John reached out via Facebook Messenger to a woman that he had dated in 2004. Karen Reed was a former financial analyst, now teaching college. Over the next 2 years, friends would say the couple's relationship was often tumultuous. On January 28, 2022, the couple fought over text message.
At 2:25, John responds back, "Nope, things haven't been great between us for a while. Ever consider that?" That was at 2:26. At 2:29, he writes, "Kids are here, not in the mood to talk. Can you please admit your head is out of the game with us?" At 2:32 p.m., sick of always arguing and fighting. It's been weekly for several months now. So yeah, I'm not as quick to jump back into being lovey-dovey as you apparently.
That night, they went bar hopping with friends, and within hours, John would be dead. Karen is charged with hitting him with her car and leaving him to die in the snow.
So, the O'Keefe family, obviously front and center. You talk about your Karen Readers and the free Karen Reed people. Yes, they are there outside. But inside that courtroom, you have the family of John O'Keefe every day. Paul O'Keefe's right next to Karen Reed. What kind of effect will the O'Keefes have in Karen Reed's retrial? They show no signs of backing down. They are looking for justice. Here to discuss, the co-hosts of the Murder Sheet podcast, Anya Kane and Kevin Greenlee. Good Friday morning to both of you. Anya, what's your take on the Commonwealth's need to keep John O'Keefe front and center here during Karen Reed retrial? I know trials are about the defendant for obvious reasons, but having him as a presence in the courtroom has to be important.
Absolutely, Ted. That's such a good question. I mean, with the first trial, we saw, I think, the defense succeed in making everything about Karen Reed in the run-up to trial. And what we saw is, an outpouring of support for her, even people booing John O'Keefe's family as they walked in the courthouse. I mean, just some pretty revolting behavior, I think. So I think centering John throughout this makes a lot of sense. I mean, this is about him. This is about what happened to him. And so I think we're seeing that strategy. And if they're able to accomplish that with the jury, I think the prosecution will see a payoff.
Kevin, what do you think will be different this time around?
I think there's an old cliche in trials that if you have a hung jury, the prosecution's case only gets better because they can see where the problems were the time before. They can make little adjustments to make their case stronger. And maybe they can include even more attention to John O'Keefe.
Hank Brennan is a big addition to the Commonwealth's strategy to win in this retrial. He seems to be going head-to-head with Karen Reed's defense team. Anya, do you think we're going to see a different type of battle in this courtroom?
Oh, yeah. I mean, just from what you were watching with pretrial, I mean, Hank Brennan is a bulldog, and he's really kind of giving as good as he gets, I would say, from what we've seen so far. So we anticipate a much more, aggressive Commonwealth, and just certain things like Karen Reed, some of her statements to the press and true crime documentary specials. I mean, I think this is a different set of facts and a different setting than what we were seeing with the first trial. I think she's done some damage to herself going into this second trial.
Paul O'Keefe was a star witness for the Commonwealth in the first trial. And then you had this scenario where he testifies, and then because he's a family, he gets to remain in the courtroom. He's there, before and after, and he is sitting right next to Karen, like staring her down. She has said in the documentaries, "Oh, he doesn't bother me at all." But jurors notice that kind of thing. I want to have you weigh in, Kevin, but first, let's listen to Paul on the stand talking about his brother and the condition of his body.
Can you describe to the jury sort of what you saw as far as your brother was concerned?
I mean, he was pretty banged up. He had His eyes had swelled up. He had a breathing tube in, well, the mask anyway. Blood come down his nose, blood come down his mouth. But what really stood out to me was, the eyes. It was almost as if like there were ping pong balls under his eyelids. They were that swollen.
Kevin, how important is Paul O'Keefe in this trial and in that courtroom?
Paul O'Keefe is absolutely crucial because it's up to him to really be one of the witnesses who brings John O'Keefe to life. The jury needs to understand who John was. They need to understand what was lost on that night. And as you mentioned, the jury picks up not just on what is said on the stand, but they're picking up on all these little mini dramas throughout the courtroom. They're watching the interactions between him and Karen Reed as he stares at her. And they see what he feels about her, and they pick up on the deep love he and the other O'Keefes have for their lost brother.
Anya, 10 of 16 jurors have already been picked, and we're not even through week 1 of jury selection. Are you surprised at the clip that both sides have been able to perform at in finding eligible jurors in a case that has gotten so much attention, not nationwide it's gotten attention, but in Dedham? I mean, you've got people on this side or this side. It's part of daily conversation. Your take on how the jury selection process has gone?
Yeah, it's definitely been a fast clip, and I think that could be surprising for folks like us within the true crime space because, this is what we're thinking about. This is what we're talking about. But I think we've seen in other high-profile cases, I think true crime can be a bit like sports. Maybe not everyone follows a particular sport, and I think it's always possible to find people who are not in that information ecosystem and are not in that bubble that are so familiar with the case. They may have heard about it, but they're not necessarily going to have formed an opinion. So I'm not too surprised, even though it can be a bit difficult to understand because obviously this is dominating what we're thinking about.
Yeah, Anya, what do you mean? Not everybody's into true crime as much as we are? That's crazy. Kevin, this case, why is it so polarizing?
It is so polarizing. I think the people who advocate for Karen Reed see her as a victim of a corrupt system. And even if people on the other side of it don't really see that is going on, there's just really strong feelings here. It's hard to articulate what it is about this case that has attracted this level of notoriety. I think people on the side who believe that Karen Reed is guilty are really outraged when they see the families of the victims and others be intimidated by the people.
Yeah, it is something else. There's no doubt about it. This is cases. You don't see these cases come along very often at all. Anya Kane, Kevin Greenlee, thank you as always.